Luther King decided, like, if he didn't want to be a priest, and that he didn't want to be a leader, like if he decided to be something else, how would that affect what happened?
Maybe somebody else stood up after instead of him doing it, or like they took charge and they started doing it after, or like if he hadn't have done it, somebody else would have spoke up and started like saying like this is not right, this is what we should do.
Maybe it affected how people would have took care of the situation themselves, because he was really against violence, and a lot of people decided before he said that they should fight back with violence, and he was saying something different.
Yeah, and a lot of his protests that he had were peaceful, so the people who did peaceful protests with him were peaceful. So maybe they learned from what his dad did if he wasn't a preacher, and they learned from him and how he wanted to live out his life, and they could learn from him, and then maybe went on and changed a lot, like Martin Luther did.
I think if Martin Luther King wasn't like a leader, and someone else stepped into his place, I feel like the world would be different, because the other person would be fighting for rights differently than he would. So I think it might affect the way the world is now.
I thought that if somebody else stood up, then he might have used different techniques. Like he might have, instead of doing a march, he might have done something different. And I was wondering what Cindy thought.
Well, I think that it would be a lot different, and maybe that the person who did stick up in place of Martin Luther King might react with violence.
I actually have a question that goes with that one. I had a question. What happened to Martin Luther King? Did he give a speech at all?
People would not be as inspired, or they might not actually like be like, if that speech was like, that's inspiring, we need to do that, it might help. If he didn't say that, nobody would have been inspired probably, and then they wouldn't have been able to solve it, or actually like wanted to solve it.
Can we talk a little bit about the methods that you guys have brought up or alluded to? You've talked about different ways that Martin Luther King approached the situation versus how others might have, through nonviolence and also through his speaking skills of being a preacher. Was there anything in that speech that you found especially persuasive or compelling?
So when he said that let freedom reign over the hills from the hills of Mississippi to the cities of Alabama, or the cities of Alabama, or yeah, like I said. And so he wanted just ring. He could have just said, "I want freedom everywhere," but he used citizen language ring, which really got people to like sway towards that side of the table instead of that side of the table, which is segregation, which a lot of people didn't want, which is one side of the table, and the other side of the table is equal rights, like you just said. So that could have persuaded people to swing more towards the equal rights side.
I think that this part of the speech, he said, "I have a dream that my children someday will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." And I think that is particularly persuasive, especially to me, because he could have easily just said, "Well, I hope someday that everybody will be treated good or bad because of the way they act towards people, blah blah blah. He could have said it in a boring way that everybody would be like, yeah, they have to think about it. But the way he said it, I think that they're like, oh yeah, they need to be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the way they act. And like they completely agree with it instantly.
I have a question that kind of goes along with what you said. There's like a lot of figurative language in the speech, and for example, it's like crippled by the handcuffs of segregation due to change of discrimination. What do you think the impact is, like when he uses figurative language? What's the impact on the reader?
I think it's more inspiring because if you just said like black people aren't being treated properly, it's not really inspiring. Like it doesn't really wake you up or anything. It's just like you're saying it. But if you say it with feeling and definition, then it makes a big difference.
I think it's valid that if you put more tone and voice in it and put emphasis on the words you're going to speak, and then if you add the figurative language as Liv was saying, it'll give people their own opinion and how to work around what was happening.
I kind of wanted to know what Elena's opinion was.
When he uses that figurative language, he's using examples that really make sense to people, and it has a deeper meaning when you think about it. And that's when it makes people more inspired to speak up.
One interpretation I got off of this was that he hopes that one day people can sit together and not get teased or bullied and be treated with equality. And so I believe in that because when he says sit at the table of brotherhood, that's like sitting at the table of equality, not getting teased, not getting bullied, and just being treated equally, no matter their race, religion, or gender. And so I'd like to get Anaya's take on my interpretation.
I feel like people should be accepted for who they are, and I feel like he felt the same way. And he feels like just because they have different like sides of however they feel, that they shouldn't be treated differently.
And like Kay was saying, the contents of their character is what they should be judged on. It's not the color of their skin. That's something that really goes along well with what he's trying to say, and like Anaya was saying, they should be judged all the same and not separately.
Sure. So what I think is that he wants, yes, he knows that white and black men and people used to be separate from each other. They couldn't do like others would do. And so he wanted to change that, but he also wanted to listen to what the other people said so that he could still have world peace without like harmful protesting. So I say he wanted to like bring it all together without the worst effects.
I have another question, and it's, what would you do if you were there when Martin Luther King gave his speech, and how would it impact you?
Bring your volume up, everybody.
I would
We can't hear.
I would take in the note that I shouldn't probably go and just say you should change, you shouldn't judge me by my skin color. I would actually take in the thought that respecting the right opinion would work, but when you take it and you know that can't really think of
inspired because like if you were there at that time, like he changed his tone of voice, like made it higher or lower for like things that he believes in more strongly or experiences that have happened or things like the tone of voice can really change like the impact.
Even his facial expressions.
Yeah, facial expressions, anything that you can tell
Like the
about
pumping
him
of
or
the
hear
lips.
about him. Yeah, just like any kind of movements
Yeah, the
or
persuasive
spaces.
language
Yeah.
would really make you think, like, man, how hard is it for him and every other black person in America to be going through this and not being treated equally and putting down lower on the priority list?
Well, I think it would actually be interesting to see how the audience would react during like certain moments when he was speaking during the speech. Like, what would the audience do? Like, what like a group of the audience could do something crazy, or and another ones could just
Be calm.
like shove it under their rug and not care about it.
Yeah. I feel like that if I was there at the I Have a Dream speech, all of us could like back then if we were there and we lived in that time, we would know what it's like to be segregated from different people, and we even though now most of the people don't support segregation, but if we were pushed back to that time, we could find, oh, segregation's fine, and we could change our opinion. And I'd like to see, like, I could be supportive of segregation if I was back then. And I'd like to see how somebody who did support of that, like if that, but see if it inspired me more if I supported segregation or not, but see if it inspired me more